how you're thinking about your sales. Okay, so we're doing our own individual business, and you're gonna try to make predictions about what you need to bring in, maybe what you wanna rate or make because you want to, have an expansion or something. So we need some way of calculating how to do this, right? We're gonna try to estimate. So they talk about a sales trend in this, which is a historical relationship between the sales and the time frame that you're talking about. So again, this is totally going to be if you're into, if you're a bike guy, if your business is bicycles, okay? Obviously, do we sell more bicycles in a certain period of time?
Yes.
In our area? Probably, right? So if we have that new version of our bike that we're talking about, and we still have some of the old versions, what are we gonna probably do? Mark them down, run a sale, right? Because we wanna get rid of those, right? And so then, but our thought process is probably a little different here in Iowa than it is, let's say, in Florida, right? Because the bike industry might be pretty consistent all year round, right? So you'd have to think about your trend and how much sales you are doing. So in this particular case, they're talking about comparing it to the last 12 years and seeing how your sales did. Did they have an increase every single year? Did you, for whatever reason, have a drop, especially like in this last year? Probably, right? Most businesses probably had some kind of a drop. So you had to think about, well, what were the circumstances? Well, in the last year, we went through the pandemic. So obviously that's not going to happen every single year, hopefully. God help us if it does, right? So you got to think about that when you're making these comparisons, we probably wouldn't compare this year that we want to last year because it's going to be a drastic difference. So we would probably skip 1 year back and make our predictions or our projections from that previous year. And we would basically take an average of what it would be. Okay, so what are some of the things that also that could happen or make this into a different situation? Obviously, the economy as a whole, and again, the pandemic probably helped that. What else could make this? What's the biggest thing that's changed if you think about Lamar's right now with businesses right now? What's kind of making certain businesses maybe rethink their priorities right now? The new gas station, right? So the new Quick Star probably made even Casey's, that country store on the corner, this gas station down over here, maybe think about how they want to, maybe they need to upgrade, maybe they need to bring something else in, maybe they need to have something special, right? So one of those customers or competitions is probably not a bad thing for some people, right? Some people think, oh, well, we're automatically going to lose a bunch of business. Now, is that just the honeymoon phase? Is everybody going to Quick Star right now just because it's new and exciting and it's got bright lights and all that kind of good stuff? Maybe, maybe not, right? Are they always going to have those same deals that they're running right now? Right? They're changing them, right? And why did they do that? To get people to come, right? They wanted people into the doors. So even though that it was new and exciting, they enhanced their product by having great deals, right? 2-for-1 burgers.
There's a free donut.
Donuts, right? Wasn't there, boxes of donuts for...
About 60 of them.
Why not 60 bucks?
Not 60 donuts.
I was gonna say.
I was gonna say, That's a lot of donuts.
His baby's
Okay.
had free money, so that's why.
So, you gotta think about all that. So again, does Casey's, does the country store in the corner, do they really freak out about that first week and a half, 2 weeks, 3-week period of time? I don't know. You think about, what was it, 2 summers ago, when they redid the road down there, right? Bob's was kind of trapped in there. You couldn't really get in there. The country store, you couldn't get into that one space. Then they went all the way around the corner, right? You know, it was hard to get into Dairy Queen there for a little while, and so on and so forth. You got to take that into consideration in your planning too. Is there another alternate route for people to get to my place of business? All that good stuff. Okay, so those are all things that we would have to understand, and you would want to know that. Okay, I'm probably not going to have the greatest time when they're redoing the road in front of our business, right? And we definitely don't want the weather to be bad that week or whatever they're going to tell us that it's going to take them to do that road, because if the weather's bad, that could prolong that project. All right, so you got to think about all those kind of things. And again, this isn't going to be just a one-time deal. You're going to kind of carry over all those things. Meaning, you're going to learn from it. You're going to talk to other business owners. Okay? Just because you're in competition with another business doesn't mean that you don't talk to those people and see what they're doing. You don't send people into their business and see what they're doing. Right? Yeah, scoping it out, right? Okay? So, we'll go through some of those examples here in a little bit. Then they talk about forecasting methods. What else could I use besides just what we talked about, sales trend, to figure out what we should do? Well, they talk about market tests, surveys again, so we could send out those surveys. Again, we kind of talked about that last section. What's the best way to send out surveys these days? Right? Email is probably a really good one. It's cheap. It gets to people. Are they going to open it? Well, who knows? They might not look at a postcard either. Okay? Salesforce projections, management opinion. So again, this is a big one right here. Management opinion. This is where in big corporations, they would have their individual managers maybe on a Zoom call now, or just in general on a conference call, to see what's working and what's not, and what's working maybe in one area compared to some other area. Meaning, if you're in different states, if you're in, they've got different laws or regulations that you got to go through. All right, so they would group management and take opinions on, well, should we continue doing this or that? Should we have a sale? Should we do all those kind of things? Right? But what you also have to think about is this. Though a lot of the managers, quote unquote, know what's going on in the everyday workload. Maybe, maybe not, right? So if you're a good manager, you probably want to go and ask who? Your everyday workers, right? The people that are putting in the hours. Okay? No offense. In some of the businesses, it could be you guys, right? You did?
Yep. I was supposed to close with 5 people, but instead, Shannon thought it was going to rain, so we were going to be less busy, and then Shannon thought that we were not going to be busy at all, and there was some other dumb reason. And so she didn't get anyone to fill that spot, so we were there an extra 30 minutes.
Because it was busy?
No, it wasn't not busy, but we only had 4 people, and that's
Oh.
not that much on a Tuesday.
She asked me to work. Does that attract me?
She could have said, yeah, just hold on, I gotta finish this.
I'm running.
So that's a great thing, so don't just say, hey, those are menial people that we don't need to ask their opinion about. Okay, so remember that. Remember how you were treated at this age, and if you get into that opportunity or that job level, to not take you guys for granted. or even if it's not, high school kids, college kids, you know. Don't take your workers just for granted, all right? The next thing that they can do are market tests. These are actual sales of a new product, but they would start in smaller geographic areas, right? So when we're talking about smaller areas, maybe they open a new product, but they're just gonna try it out in the Chicago area. Now you're saying, well, that's not a very big or very small area, but if they're a countrywide institution or organization, it's probably a pretty good, you know, thought process. Just using Chicago, why? I can ship it there maybe easier. Maybe that's where my company originally is at. So we're gonna use Chicago as kind of our testing site and to see if it goes over well there. If it goes over well there, then we broaden our horizons and let it go farther and farther out. All right? Maybe Chicago's too busy or too big. Maybe we just do it into a smaller place like Des Moines. Okay? Maybe we can go smaller and go to Sioux City. Maybe we can go smaller and we go to Lamar. All right? So you got to think about those kind of things. When we talk about sales force projections, you're asking your employees to say how they thought the customers responded. Again, don't forget about them. None of the methods actually guarantee actual sales, though, right? Anything that we're going to try out, you have no idea how the people are going to react. Maybe you think your sales pitch, your sales thought process is perfect, but believe it or not, you've been in life long enough now, things don't always work out, do they? There's always little things that you think are going to just be perfect, but there's always a little bump in the road. So you got to think about all that good stuff too. All right? So that's what we're talking about with sales. Don't forget to ask the opinion of a lot of different versions or different clientele, different workers, different regions. If you're nationwide, that's all got to happen. So turn to page 449. We'll look through a couple examples, and then you should be able to get most of the, not all of this done today before you leave. So you don't forget about it. Not that any of you would ever do that. All right, page 449, letter A. The sales of Deadmile, which is a new toothpaste produced by Universal Brands, were $2.8 million last year. Based on Universal's historical pattern of new product sales, Deadmile's sales are projected to be 2.5 times greater this year. What is the projection for this year's sales? So, if we're expecting it to even go up further, what do we do with our two numbers? Multiply them together. Pretty simple, right? Letter B, last year's sales of an antivirus software package were 215,000 units to the business market and 98,000 units to the school market. Excuse me. Software sales to both markets are expected to increase by an average of 8% this year. What are the predicted total unit sales of the software to businesses and schools combined this year? So what are we going to do in this one? Add them up. 9.8, perfect. And then we would add that to our total answer, right? Anybody need to see the math? Grand total would have been 338,040. Everybody good there? Turn the page. Bless you. Letter C on 450. Sales of house glow dish soap increased by 2.5% in a test market due to a new bottle color. Anybody buy something just because the bottle is a cool bottle?
No.
Yes.
Anybody? Exactly, they do, right? Even though you don't want to say yes right now, you buy a bunch of stupid stuff because.
When I was a little kid, you had to buy the root beer bottles in the 3-packs because then you thought you were real cool. Crack a cold one with Dad. And it was just cream soda.
What else? Who else buys something just because the bottle's cool?
The Irish Spring bottle's pretty cool.
Okay? So you may look at soap, right? Anybody else?
I bought a pot because it looked cool.
A pot? Okay. And do you use that pot for your
Spaghetti.
plant? Or
No,
like a-
well, it's like it was supposed to be like a plant pot, but I don't have a plant in it.
You don't use it for
That
plants?
seems very,
You use it for like a change jar or something?
No, it's really big. It's really awkwardly shaped. I have scrunchies in it right now.
Oh,
It's really cute though,
but you bought it just because you like the look?
Yeah. because I like the colors of it.
There you go. Alright. So, think about those kind of weird things, right? What would appeal to you guys right now? Right? That's where your advertisement, your sales pitch all comes about, right? How can I get you guys to be invested in something? Make it some psychedelic color. Okay? So, total sales in all markets are now $16 million. Houseflow plans to change the color permanently and predicts total sales to increase by the same percent as in the test market. By what amount are sales predicted to increase? What are the total predicted sales once the color change is made? So here's the thought right here. Is this a good idea for this company? Before we actually get into the numbers? Just because Tiff liked that pot for a little period of time, Tyrell saying no already, is that going to just turn on? Okay? So, is it better off to maybe put it through a cycle? You know, like a month version of it? Okay? The only bad thing is like, you probably don't want to do this if you're running a restaurant, because why? Or a pizza place or something like that.
What
Why?
are you doing?
What?
We're changing?
We're changing something, right? But we're just anticipating that the change is going to be good for a long time. So if I'm going to make that change with the color of a bottle, probably not as big of a deal. But if I'm going to change my, let's just say my menu for a month, and I hope that it goes well, just remember that I have to reprint those menus if I'm going to make my change. And that could be another big expense. What? You mean if you're going to go back to that one? You could. Exactly. Right. But people don't understand why like restaurants and that don't make a lot of those kind of changes, because they have to reprint them. And to go back to them, then I either have to reprint them again or try to go back to the old version, and maybe some people didn't like the old version because it wasn't the right color or the right shape or whatever. So you gotta think about it. Okay? So what do we do for the numbers? What do we have to do for the numbers here? I'm gonna take 16 million and do what with it? 0.025. Don't forget to move it 2 places to the left. And then that's my increase, and then I take that number and add it back to the 16 million, right? Everybody good there?
yes.
Letter D, the sales staff of an office products dealer expects to sell 31 more copiers next year than this year. This year, 176 copiers were sold at an average price of $16,000. Assume the sales projections are correct and the average price will remain the same. What is the total projected copier sales next year? So before you think about that, if you're thinking that you're going to sell 31 more copiers, would you keep the same price? Would you sell 31 more copiers if you raised your price? Maybe, maybe not, right? But probably not, especially in this time frame, right? So you got to think about all those things. Is it okay that we keep our price the same? Well, as long as we're making money off of it, what do we really care? Can we try to bump it just even $5? At least we make a little bit more money. But you got to take that all into consideration, right? Yeah. But basically, we're just taking what? So take your 16,400 times 31, right? And that's it.
So how much copiers actually work?
Yeah.
We're doing.
How much do you think this copiers were worth? Just lounge in the office.
Are you
Really?
kidding?
No one's gonna buy that.
Yes.
But you gotta realize how much those things can actually do.
One, it's a copier, scanner.
The dumbest
Like the
thing.
one in the office, I can make, you know those, the covers for programs? You can stick it or send your feed to that. And then it'll print it and it'll go through the thing and actually
Yes.
fold them too.
You can get.
Well,
like a
because,
gallon
wasn't it also a staple?
It can staple. Yeah. So here's your problems. You still got about 15 minutes.